tonight. I know that several of us have things going on, and 7:30 is a little bit late, but we appreciate you being in attendance. Ashley and Mandy will make sure that each of you receive a certificate so that it can go in your file for your professional growth activities, and it will go under the in-service training activity as a portion of that plan. Ashley asked me to speak a little bit about online operations and the changes that were made recently. So I will start with my position. I was recently moved into the VP of Academic role, and among other duties, I am responsible for and oversee the online curriculum and aspects of the college. Ashley was moved back into the faculty role. She is responsible for faculty training, faculty hiring and onboarding, and the scheduling of general education faculty members. So you'll be in a lot of contact with Ashley as we move into 2016. I know that she's already requested a lot of information from you, including those professional development plans. So we appreciate her being back in that role. John Forsyth recently moved into the business program director role for online and ground. John is responsible for student success as it pertains to online students, as well as on-ground students for Murray and the Layton campuses. And John will be scheduling online instructors under the business program moving forward. So I'm certain that he will be in contact with those of you who teach online for our business program. And then he's responsible for student advising and student retention in regards to business. So if you ever have questions in regards to your students that are in the business program, John would be that person to contact. Tricia Brown is also joining the online role, and she's been with our organization for quite some time. She has been teaching a little bit online for the last year or so, but she's taking on the online criminal justice and paralegal program director role. And she will be responsible for criminal justice and paralegal studies, students, and instructors in the online capacity, as well as curriculum development and those kinds of things. Responsible for student success, student advising, and then the scheduling and hiring of those criminal justice and paralegal instructors. And then Mandy will continue in her role as the online operations coordinator. Mandy does a lot of the things behind the scene that I'm not even aware of how those are done, but she does a fantastic job at that, including some of the reporting. She does some of the scheduling with the Canvas courses. She builds those courses for us for each of the blocks. She does a lot of different things with the curriculum content within those courses online. So a lot of the technical pieces that we just assume are taken care of. As well, Mandy supports the students for the Eaglegate College portion of our organization. So we have changed the structure a little bit in online to support our students. Ashley, in addition to her role, will be the point of contact for our Provo College students. And then Mandy, in addition to her role, is the point of contact for our Eaglegate College students. So they provide technical assistance, some of the online orientations, student contacting when it's necessary for those campuses, and participate in student retention for those campus locations. So if you know a student is from the Eaglegate side, contact Mandy if you have questions, and she can get you in touch with either the right person on the campus or maybe answer those questions for you, and then Ashley on the Provo College side. So that covers all of our online changes, and I'm going to turn the time back over to Ashley.
All right, thank you so much, Janet. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate your support for online. If any of you have worked with Janet, you know that she's fantastic in any role that she's in. So we are really, really happy to have her with online. What I'm going to talk about for a few minutes is Atomic Learning. I know a few of you were thinking that we were doing the training through Atomic Learning tonight, but I'm just going to show you some of these trainings that we'd like you to do as part of your professional development and in-service trainings for 2016. One thing that I've noticed when I go into the different classes, and I know that Mandy and I have spoken about this, is some of the grading with APA. We feel like maybe some instructors are really experts on APA and some maybe need a little bit of a refresher course on APA and also AMA, which Erin will talk about. And so if we go into Atomic Learning, I'm going to show you that in just a second. There's some great, fantastic resources on APA for APA 6, which is what we use, and on reference citing and also Google Scholar and a lot of different ones. So I'm going to show you how to go in and find those trainings, and then I'm also going to show you how to upload Atomic Learning into your classes. Some of you are already doing this, which is fantastic. And then I will also show you where to find your certificates. I know that some of you have completed trainings but maybe weren't able to find your certificates, and I'll show you what to look for. So let's go ahead and log into Atomic Learning. I have a lot of things open, which is very standard for me. So this is the logins for everyone for Atomic Learning. So if you don't have that, go back and look for an email from me. Just search for Ashley and Atomic Learning, and you'll see your passwords. Your password will either be capital Eagle or Eagle lowercase or Learn. But when you go into Atomic Learning, you can search for whatever you are interested in searching for. So I'm going to search for Google Scholar, just to show you as an example. Okay, so if you look here, you see that this one, to go to them, will show up as after you've completed a training, you will actually tell you how to print the certificate, and you need to go back through and make sure that all of these things are green. And you have to go through each one and watch them. I shouldn't say that, but you should be way through. And then if you account after you've logged into, take a second. It looks like it's just thinking for a second here. And then you can see activity overview. And so if you click there and you go down, completion, and then you put in the dates that you completed it. So anything from last year, isn't going to show up, but from this date to this date. So whatever dates you want to catch, if you want to catch dates further back, if you're looking back in 2015 and need documentation, and then you click this generate report. And your certificate, so you can see the only one that's the Google Scholar, Christiansen Eaglegate College, print it, view it, whatever you would like. But we will need those certificates for your files just to show that you've completed some different math things. And so now what I'd like to do is show you how to add some of these links into your online classes. So I'm going to go into this class, add links into any of your courses. So this is Lois Ulrich also has been adding some into her courses. So if you go in under modules, I'll show you. You would go in and just click on this plus button, and then you would click on assignment, and I can actually create maybe some sort of a job aid on this, and then you go under external tools, and then right here you're going to click on where it says Atomic Learning, and then add item, and then what you'll do is when you click, for example, if you were having a problem with your students with, I'm just going to put plagiarism because I know none of us have ever had any students plagiarize, but I'm going to just put that in your class for your students. It's plagiarism in a specific aspect. So if you want them to watch the whole entire thing, great. If you just want them to only see consequences, whatever it is that you want them to see, and then you click preview selection and then submit. And now you've added that into your course. You're teaching writing, Cassandra and Annette. If you wanted to, add item, and then you click on it, and then let's just say interviewing, maybe for career development course. And so right here you can see where it has all these different things on interviewing, which is another resource that we have. So you just click on that, and you'll want to go through and search because there's a lot of great things that you can add to your classes that really will enhance your courses. So you would just click on this, and then you do preview selections, and then submit. You can see that. But one thing that you'll want to notice is if you see that it's grayed out, you to do that and encourage you to use Atomic Learning. APA 2010 and 2013, Google Scholar, and then send us the time over to Lois, and she's going to be talking about APA. So I'm going to turn the time now over to Lois, if that's okay. Let me change you to be the presenter, Lois. Well, we have a great group here tonight. I am really, really proud to see how many of you are here. All right, Lois, you are now going to be the presenter.
Okay. Show my screen. Home.
Yes.
And samples. If anybody needs anything, I'll send it to you. So basically, talk about APA resources here. So this is the APA manual, this blue book, and I know not all of us have that book, but believe it or not, it started out as an article. And so these a group of scholars, they wrote the article, and they started these set of rules in order to help people read and comprehend scientific writing. And they prepared this uniform style, which we call APA from the American Psychological Association, so that they can pose and disseminate written scholarly information. And we're still using it today. Of course, we're in the 6th edition now of the APA standards, and we use it to cite and reference books, journals, and even electronic information. So when to use APA format. So like we said, APA is going to be used probably by every program we have here except for our colleagues in physical therapist assistant. And they use AMA, or American Medical Association, formatting, and Erin is going to talk to us about that. So for all the rest of us, and especially nursing, we're using it in our discussion threads when the students bring in reference to scholarly resources or literature that they've read, or especially on their assignments. They need to, on each of our assignments, they need to bring in at least 2 references to scholarly literature. And they can look things up in the online libraries in Ovid or LIRN. Yes. And so they cite and they reference their literature. So that's when we're using it. So here's just a couple quick tips for you and your students when you're assisting them with formatting, or if you're grading them with formatting. Now, most of the stuff our students want to find doesn't seem to be in their online library, so we really have to encourage them to search the online libraries that we're providing them first. But if they choose, they'll go out onto on the internet, and they will find things on the internet. And a lot of times, I don't know if you've seen it, but they will either cite or reference simply with the URL or website that they found. And unfortunately, that is not an acceptable citation or reference. So you can look it up in the APA manual, or you can go to the APA style and look for electronic resources or electronic media, and it'll walk you through. And basically, you're going to cite a website just like you would any journal or book. You're going to look for an author. It might be a group author. It might be an organization. You'll look for a date. If you're reading an article from the website, that article may have an author or a date. They'll certainly have a title. If you're citing the whole website, look for the title of the website. And so we tell the students you have to kind of sleuth through their website and find out more about it than just the URL. So they find the author, even if it's a group, they find a date, they find the name of the website or the name of the information that they're presenting, and then they say retrieved from, and that's where you put the URL. So it's going to look like a whole citation. And I always tell the students, write your references first. And if you write your references first, you know who to cite, because the first one's the name, the second thing's the date. So there you go. You got your citation to put in text, and it has a nice matching reference. So I always tell them also that they're using references based on previously published works, you're looking for trouble. Find a journal article that they really like, and they look into the reference page to find others to go look at. And a lot of times they'll just simply use whatever reference is down there, kind of copy and paste it in, and that's going to be their reference as well. But it could be older than APA 6th edition, and then it won't be in the correct format. So I always tell the students, don't trust old works and what they have as the APA citation. I don't even trust the library all the time because they might not be updated. So yes, get the information from there, but then go back to your resources and make sure what you're citing is in correct APA 6th edition. And there are changes from previous editions. So all in-text citations must have a matching reference, and in turn, all references must have a matching in-text citation. And I don't know about you, but every week I read what my students write, and they might cite Joe 2008 did this or said this, and then there's no reference. Or they do a beautiful discussion thread, And you can tell they've really done some research, and it sounds great, but there's no citation, but they sure have references. So you can't have one without the other. And the reason I try to get them to do that, put them together, is because there's a reason for it. If I'm reading somebody's work and I'm really interested, I might want to read more about Joe 2008. I mean, that might be a great article. So I'm going to look to the reference list so I can go off and find the article and learn more from what they've provided me. So if there's not one that matches the other, we're kind of stopped. We cannot go out and look at it, and we can't learn from what the student can't have one without. So if you don't have the beautiful blue APA manual, Valentine's Day, Easter's coming, there's a lot of good ways to get an APA manual. If you don't have a manual, you can always look at my handy-dandy videos that are available. Might be in your Pages tab. So grab a cup of coffee and watch this 21-minute one. It's a little longer because it's in more detail, and it goes into citing a journal and a book and electronic resources. It'd probably be great for faculty. It's really good for the nursing students because it gives them the detail. But if you want something shorter, there is a 15-minute version, or is it, I think, a 12-minute version, and that's also available in the Pages tab. So you have this little tutorial that I put together on APA. Also available in the Pages tab, and you can even just share this link. This is the APA style link, and I can go to the Pages tab and show you, but in there, if the student clicks on it, you can actually find quick tips, you can find formatting hints, you can search for something you're looking for. Say they're searching for a quote or something, they can just type that in, it'll take them right to it. So I have found, and the students have found, that the APA Styles is so handy, and it's trustworthy because it's coming right from APA themselves, from the 6th edition manual. So that is a great resource, especially if you don't have the book. Now, I know a lot of other people, and I used to use it when I was in school, use the English Purdue here, the Purdue OWL. It's another type of resource where you can also find quick tips or search for something you're looking for to help you format. Be careful with Purdue OWL. Sometimes they say a few things that might lead you astray. I know recently we all learned that Purdue OWL was telling people about citing databases, but they did warn you that APA, of course, does not cite database. I just don't want the students to be led astray. So it's a tool. It could be helpful, but if you're going to use a tool and you have access to the apastyle.org, I would just use that one. But I just wanted to make sure you had all the resources available. And then, like Ashley said, boy, that atomic learning, I mean, I've been doing APA for a while, but I'm still going to get into that atomic learning and check it out to see what they've got. It might help me help my students, because hearing other people the way they do it, it can help you teach your students. So there's some great resources. APA Police. I always bring this out after week 3, because after week 3, we've helped the students, we've given them samples, we've done a quiz with them, we've pretty much taught them APA to get them started. So that's when we start grading them on their APA. But we don't want to stop them from trying, because we know they're just learning this, and this is something where you're going to learn it forever. I keep my manuals with me at all times. So you don't want to be too much of a police officer because you're a teacher. You have to be a combination. You do need to grade accordingly. If you've taught them what they should be doing and you've provided them samples and you've given them hints each time, then you have to mark them down for it according to your rubrics as you're grading their assignments or discussions if it's in your discussion. But when you mark them down, you need to give them feedback. You got this wrong, but you also tell them why it was wrong, and maybe give them a sample of what's correct, or tell them where they could go to get more information on it. When I see them start making a lot of mistakes with the media, then I bring out a sample or something in the announcements all about electronic media. Because if I'm going to mark them down, I still have to teach. I want to teach them as well. So that's the APA. turn this off and go to one of my classes real quick. And we can see that in the page. Now, Ashley, are they in everybody's pages tabs, the APA styles link?
Yes, yep, everybody will have those videos, and then also under the modules, there's other information on APA in our term courses.
You can just click right on, and I mean, here's the basic page numbers for these courses. On the internet, they might not have a page number, so then they need to do paragraph number, and that could be very confusing. So here they can just come in and search and find quick answers about formatting, and it's just very, this is the long one, and here's the condensed. I also have samples. If you need them, we could send them to you.
Under modules, the SKL 242-0216 term. So SKL, and then search for, so just kind of scroll down, a lot of them. Click on that. It's actually under modules. So in the term courses, one thing that we've recently added, well, Sam may have recently.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's helpful. So if you have students that turn things in our APA class, so thank you.
Morning.
Yeah.
Stick these in our class too.
You what? Okay, yeah, we can get those added.
Okay.
It's a quick thing. Mandy will be excited.
All right. Well, thank you. Now it's time for Erin and AMA.
All right, Erin, AMA. Okay, you should get something on your screen. It'll say become a presenter, and then click that, and then it will start.
Hi, everyone. So for AMA, Pre-Med Association, so I just you can go to AMAmanualofstyle.com, this website right here, and then you can find a lot of valuable information that helps discuss some of the subtleties between the APA and AMA. So what I really wanted to spend some time with is just highlighting differences are with AMA. And with AMA, we use without having these breaks of author and date. So they're just these little notations. Anytime you're citing a reference in your paper, the first time you have a reference, that's going to become reference number 1. So in our reference page, we don't do it alphabetically. AMA does it by how it appears in your paper or whatever it is you're presenting. So the first reference you use will be citation number 1. The second reference you use will be citation number 2. If you go back and re-reference number 1, like farther down right here, and then I'm just going to scroll down. I know it's hard to see when I scroll down. So here's our references style, but it's just sort of learning what's italicized and bolded in sort of the order. But your references will not be alphabetized. They'll be by the way they appear in your article. So we've created in the PTA department a little citation cheat sheet style. It's so lengthy that helps have them here for books and citing multiple pages, how you do that and that sort of thing here. And the AMA cheat sheet to use so that to Ashley and she can change gen ed courses that that have a PTA students that will be sure to cite is exactly the same. It's just how we cite and how we organize the reference page that are the major differences.
You may get asked to teach, for example, Jan Wong, the PSY 310. That was awesome. All right.
Thanks.
Now
and
I'm
you'll
going
provide
to
these.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, yeah.
No,
I'll provide.
And you'll provide those.
Yeah, I will email out all the documents that work. Pretty sure it will work, but you never 100% know. All right. So can everyone see my screen? Now it should say barriers to online learning. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect, awesome. Okay, perfect, thank you. Just a couple of yeses and then we'll know we're good. All right, before I share this, one thing that I wanted to really quickly show, and this is something that Lois, but before we talk about the barriers, I just wanted to really quickly talk about this just to make sure that everybody knows the easiest way. We're getting a few inaccuracies with attendance, and so I'm just going to show you because we're recording this. So let me go into one that doesn't have students and see if we can see any analytics. This orientation video. But when you go in to look up your students for what they've done. I know that I've talked to several of you, and I know some of you have said that you look at each discussion and you look at each assignment, and you're doing a lot of that. Everyone knows is just to go under people, and then you would click under the person. We'll just look up Lois, but I don't think there's any assignments, so that might not work. Let's see if we can find any people that are students. And so they were to scroll through, like I'm a student, and scroll to student, it looks like there was a, and you can just scroll really quickly through the students. You don't have to go back, but if they, you know, if you want to see what they've done for discussions, you'll go. But I know that just with inaccuracies, you want to make sure that you're accurate when you're doing attendance. And I just wanted to say that really fast before we talk about barriers. Does anyone have any questions on how to take attendance or about analytics? Any questions or problems that you've run into? We're going to talk a little bit about learning, and then I'm going to talk about some of the ways that I feel here. So some of the big barriers students have is, the first one is time management. I know when Lois does this in her NUR 125 class, she has the students actually list out everything they do in the day and kind of figure out how they can manage their time better. Cost is another thing. A lot of our students may even have a hard time, you know, getting gas to get back and forth from the campuses, or, you know, getting Microsoft products or those kind of things. A lot of things that maybe we don't think about. Some of those are pretty serious for them. Is cost, effort. A lot of times, just maybe some of them, maybe not as much with nursing and PTA, but some of our term students, maybe they're the first person to ever go to college in their family, and so it's kind of hard to. Maybe they haven't seen that example, and so just the effort and how to, you know, plan and manage their time. Diversity is another big thing in some of our classes where students may have a hard time understanding us or understanding some of the lecture materials. I know that in a previous class that I had, like in SKL 242, there was a student that was coming from another country, and she didn't have any work experience here in the U.S., and so a lot of the things that I would ask her, she wouldn't quite understand because they were different where she was coming from, and so just kind of that can be an issue. Geography, based on where they are, if you're asking them to go in and do a mock interview or do something at the campus, make sure that you know where they're located, because we do have students in different parts of the state. I've had students in Mona, Manti, Moroni, Nephi, different places where it's harder for them to get into the campus, and so geography. And then one of the things that I think is the biggest barriers is computer literacy and technology, and that's something where as instructors it can be hard, but we have to be pretty patient with our students. And so those are some of the barriers, and I'm just going to talk quickly about some of the ways that I think that we can help. Have any other barriers that I didn't list that they move on how to improve? I was just thinking. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Maggie. Let's hear it.
Yeah, that visual and structural component to keep on track. So I think one of the things that I think we're doing more and more of is calling our students on the phone, talking to them, finding out what's going on in their lives. Not that it's an excuse, but it's a reality, and kind of helping make some kind of connection with them.
Yeah. That's huge. That kind of face-to-face and talking. And I know that sometimes when I get on the phone with a student, they're almost like shocked. They're like, "Wait, who are you? You're my teacher?" You know, they're like so excited to talk to someone and, you know, just let you know about their specific situation. So yeah, that is a big thing, and that's a hard thing with online learning. As much as we do conferences and conference calls and that kind of thing, they still don't get that face-to-face that they do in the classroom. So as much as you're talking to students, or a lot of you text students or email students, that's a big thing. So that was actually the first thing that I had listed, Maggie, is stay in close contact with your students. Students do well when they're reminded. I know that often when you get on the phone with a student and say, "Hey, you have before tonight at midnight to post," they're like, "Oh, is it Wednesday? Oh man," you know, and they need those reminders, and then sometimes they still don't post, which is surprising. But yeah, just those reminders and talking to someone. Texting is something if you're comfortable with. I know that I find that that's one of the most effective ways to reach out to students, and I also like it because it kind of creates a documentation trail. If you're texting and emailing students. And often with students, when you get them on the phone, they may have a lot of excuses or different things that have happened, and you can be really empathetic with them, but then you want to make sure that you're sticking to our online policies and our online late policies, and you want to look, you know, depending on if you're teaching BSN or PTA or term, we have to really stick with those policies. So you can be empathetic, but then you also want to let them know, hey, this is the late policy. You know, if it's something serious, we need the documentation to your dean or something like that. But you can listen to their situation. Sending group emails is a great way to remind students. And then also personal emails. Sometimes if you have maybe a smaller class, you can just send out a quick email to each student and include their first name. And then another thing is with your students, you want to make sure that they know how to access. If they're uploading documents that are not like .docx or whatever with Microsoft Word, you want to make sure that you help them through those technology things, and we'll talk about that. I kind of skipped ahead. But have any of you had students? Oh yeah, go ahead.
This is Mike. One thing about texting and emailing that I think is an advantage too for some of your students is, I mean, I know very often I've found students when I'm online at midnight, so are they. And so sometimes it's not always easy to get a hold of them by phone, but at least when there's a text or an email, they can see it when it works for them, very much like we do with the class.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of that reminder, and yeah, that's perfect. And have you found that that's pretty effective with your students, Mike? I know sometimes you have big classes or smaller classes, and you do a lot of...
For the most part, I find they respond to texts better than emails. They carry that phone with them next to their heart, you know, and they may not always check their emails. So I find texting particularly.
Were they on the last?
They don't know your phone number. Some of them won't answer either if they don't know your phone number.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't answer my phone sometimes if I don't recognize it. So yeah. Yeah, that's true. And so, yeah, I think that's a little bit less threatening to them. And, yeah, I think that's a good point. And just reminding them, like you said, like the last day of the term, that can be helpful. So, yeah, that's perfect. Another thing that, and I know that we talk about this in every training, but I still go into classes and I still see instructors that maybe aren't as active in the discussion boards. But make sure that you're in the discussion boards and that you're responding at least 8 times per discussion per week, and then make sure that you're checking the questions to the instructor and checking your emails. And, you know, you don't have to be in 3 times a day, but at least once a day you want to make sure that you don't have any emails that you haven't seen, any questions to the instructor. And often students will post questions in weird places in the classes. For example, in my class I've had questions posted under announcements. And so just kind of look really quickly through your class and see if you have anything that's blue, or I can't remember, blue or green, whatever the color. And then just look at those, because you don't want to miss something that maybe they're waiting for you to answer something. So just kind of, you know, keep an eye on that. And then you guys did super amazing on posting notes for Monday. We were really impressed. But make sure that you're posting those notes. And one thing that Janet talked about is you want to make sure that you're posting active things that you've done to contact the students. I know I've been guilty of saying, I'm going to call the student later on today when I actually haven't called them, but make sure that you're posting just active things that you've done to communicate with your students. And the campuses are looking at those documents. I know that in the past maybe we felt like they weren't, but I can tell you that now that those notes are going directly to deans and John and Tricia, program directors, everyone is reading those notes. And so just make sure that you're specific with those, and then posting your percentages. And then another thing that I read a lot of research is just asking students why they aren't doing well, asking them about technology, asking them if they don't have their textbook, are they having problems with the internet, do you need to help set up some tutoring at the campuses, you know, those kind of questions, because a lot of times they just are so frustrated. But if you start to ask them questions, then they will, you know, respond to that. So yeah, does anybody have any comments on that, how they've asked questions or involved a campus, or any feedback on that? Okay, that's okay. Another thing is now this is going to be a little bit challenging, but we're holding 2 conferences a term for your online classes, and the conferences can either be through Canvas or they can be a free conference call. Has anybody had any good success with their conferences this term? No success.
Ashley?
I'm going to
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Annette. Excuse me, and I don't have a good success to report. I had my first conference last night, and only 2 people showed up, so I really wondered if anybody had suggestions on what they do, because the students were well aware of it, and I had asked them to let me know if they couldn't make it, and only 1 person let me know that they couldn't make it, but you know that means that there were about 20 that could have made it and didn't. Yeah. So I'd like to hear what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, I'm curious as well if there's anyone that's having great success. I know David Robinson, you've had some good success with yours, having them on specific nights, like every Thursday night at 7:30. You have a specific time so they know what to expect. But one thing that I find when I've done conferences is if you have a very specific thing or maybe something that they might need help with, say you're going to, you know, review for a midterm exam or review for a final exam, make sure that whatever you're doing in the conference holds value to them. And then, I don't know, any other suggestions that other people have or ways that they've improved their conferences?
Actually, let me just jump in here.
Okay.
I've had some good success and some not so good success, and it is discouraging. And so I don't remember who said they only had 2 students, but I've had that as well when I've had 20 students, and sometimes I'll have 10, but sometimes I'll only have 2, and it is discouraging. And I don't have any magic bullet for that. I've tried a whole bunch of things. I give them tons and tons of warning and tell them how great it's going to be that we can talk and you can ask questions and, you know, meet the other students or whatever, you know, to try and make them feel more comfortable. And, you know, and you don't know whether it's working or not because, you know, it depends on how many people you actually get and whether they're actually at work and, you know, they have all kinds of other conflicts. But the thing that's helped a little bit is that when I have students, for example, I always tie them into reviews of chapters. And so if I have students that are really doing horribly on their exams, I mean, you know, 2 out of 10 and 3.5 out of 10, that kind of thing, I'll send them an individual email, and sometimes I'll call them and just say, you know, this could really be helpful. You know, it's a great way to understand the material. You can ask any questions. We go over it very slowly, and sometimes that works, and then we can. And sometimes I've had great success with that. I wish I had more success, but actually I've seen some students go from you know 3.5 to 8 or 9. You know, and so I've really felt good about that. But as I say, I don't have any magic bullet. You just have to keep trying different things.
Yeah, keep trying different things. Yeah, I agree. And I know I was reading in the comments, it looks like, I know I agree with Chris Williams. He said that, you know, a lot of times students are working at odd hours in their classes, that kind of thing. So it is hard to reach them. But it is important that you know, if you're doing a conference in Canvas, you can record those and post the link. And I know I've had students watch that, especially if you're just doing an intro to the class or a review. A lot of times students will watch those recordings if you do that. So just record those, and that can also help students. And you may never know if they watch them, because Lois and I, we've deducted that we can't figure out if they've watched those conferences or not. But it is helpful just to record those, so if they do want to go back and do that or something, they have that option. So make sure that you're doing those, and make sure that you're posting the reminder in your announcements. So Mandy, when she's looking in the classes, she can see really quickly that you've done the 2 conferences. And hopefully, as we are doing 2 a term, hopefully more students will find more value and will be more creative in what we're doing and find ways to reach more students in doing those. So yeah, I appreciate the feedback on that. I'm looking to see, I see another comment. Let's see, so Nate, yeah, if we were to make it mandatory, but we can't really do, you know, extra credit, that kind of thing, so it is a little bit challenging. But like, you know, like David said, if you help them with an assignment and it helps them improve their score, maybe they resubmit it because you go through it with them and give them suggestions, and that, you know, that might be motivating to students. A couple other things that I just wanted to talk about. I don't see a lot of this, but I read about it when I go in and read about online learning and online teaching, is just using a netiquette in your online classes. I know that we've talked about this before with tone and how we're coming across, but make sure that, you know, when you're typing, try to avoid exclamation points and to make students feel like you're upset with them, because we've had students write reviews where, you know, they felt like the instructor didn't like them because of how they communicated with them. And so just kind of be careful with your tone where you're not talking to them. It's sometimes, I know I've probably sent messages to people that could have sounded offensive when I had no intention to offend. So just kind of be pleasant when you're doing that, so that it said use capital letters, avoid extensive use of text lingo. It's just be really professional when you're responding to students. And then if you have any situations where a student may be disrespectful to you or another student, I know that I mean, it's been a while, but I have talked to instructors and they have different situations. Don't feel like you know, when you're reporting something to me or to Mandy or to the program directors, don't feel like we are going to place any blame on you, but we want to know about situations that are happening in classes, and we can, you know, involve deans or involve campuses if there's anything inappropriate. So just kind of report any things of disrespect that you might find in your class, or if someone's being disrespectful to another student. That's important. And then always consider your tone when you are communicating. One thing that they say to do is sometimes read your discussion posts out loud before you post them, and then just kind of assess your tone and look for your spelling and grammatical errors. But that can also be helpful. And then I found one other thing. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I am going to send you this document. I loved this. This is for how students can improve and overcome the barriers to online education. So we don't really need to talk about it as instructors, but these are just some ideas. If students are struggling, just let them know participating, take it seriously, let them know, you know, they need to value their education. Where are you trying things? You know, good study habits. And with that, I'm going to now make Mandy the presenter because my phone's going off. So Mandy, I'm going to turn the time over to you to talk about retention. All right, I'm going to make you the presenter, Mandy. And then, like I said, I'm going to send you these documents so you can look at these and kind of get some ideas on how you can help your online students. All right, Mandy, here you go.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Are you seeing the PowerPoint presentation right now?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay. So Ashley and Lois just basically stole all of my thunder and gave away pretty much my entire presentation. So a lot of this might be redundant, but it's still good information to have. So with that, here we go. Why is retention important? Our students don't come to our school and go through all of the trouble to get into our programs just because they're bored or they have some free time on their hands. They generally come in with a dream and a goal to change their lives and get a new job and have a better future for themselves and their families. And keeping our students in their program and helping them as we can helps them to achieve that goal. And it's not about the money, it's about their success. And so if we keep the students in their program, they are going to reach their final goal, which is to graduate and change their life. I got a lot of really good information from the BSN online faculty handbook, including these best practices. I'm going to go through each of these a little more in depth after this, but right off the top, we have apply course student learning outcomes, course preparation and maintenance, instructor presence in the online learning environment, providing feedback, grading, and attendance, and conduct in the threaded discussions and course. So the first one, hopefully everybody here knows that we have a syllabus tab in Canvas that has a section that talks about the learning outcomes, and every one of those classes has a bulleted or numbered section of what those students should be able to know by the time they finish that class. And it's important that those are used and brought up throughout the class, throughout the entire class. It should be put into your weekly announcements. It should be in your weekly discussions. You should somehow always bring it back to that to make sure that the students do end the program with the knowledge that we say they will. Course preparation and maintenance. It's important to go in. Some of you have taught the same classes so many times that you could do it in your sleep, but sometimes there are changes made or it's a new class, and it's important that you go into that class knowing what to expect, and same with the students. So it's important that you go in and make sure that you are prepared so that your students can succeed. That includes posting your weekly announcement, hopefully by Monday, so that your students can find out what their assignments are, their due dates, what those learning outcomes for the week are, and any other relevant information. If you find anything within your class that you think needs to be changed, if it's curriculum, you need to go to your program director. If it's a simple setting or a typo or something like that, you can come to me and I will fix it. I try to look for those in the beginning, but I am not a medical billing and coding subject expert, and so if there is something wrong in a discussion question or a quiz, I am certainly not going to catch it. So it's important that you guys, if you find things like that, bring it to us so that we can correct it. This one, Ashley just spoke a lot about, and I tend to lecture a lot about this, and so some of you get to hear it again. I think that one of the biggest things that keeps our students engaged and therefore wanting to stay in the program is how much we interact with them. So they can't go to the classroom and sit there and talk to you face-to-face and get that interaction that they need, but they can get it through our threaded discussion. So every term we have the EagleGate Cafe, which is open during the first week, and it is important that you go in and you actually respond to those posts, get to know your students, find out how they like to be referred to. My real name is Amanda, and if you call me that, I don't tend to answer, and I get a little more formal, and it's my legal name, so that's kind of how I interact with people who use that name. Whereas if you call me Mandy, then I'm going to feel like you actually care enough to pay attention to that. And so it's important that we keep that kind of relationship with our students and make them feel comfortable. Something that a lot of you do that I really appreciate and I highly recommend is something called a launch post, where you go in either Sunday or Monday and post your initial thread for the week. A lot of instructors do it every week. They post it at the very beginning, which I actually recommend because there are students who go in there early. So if you're able to get in there and beat them, then it does help, and it kind of saves you a little bit of time later. But post that launch post, and then they also have been posting summary posts at the end of the week. According to this, Lois has said, or nursing, I shouldn't say, Saturday by noon, that way, and she says to summarize the post with a question so that you can keep the dialogue going. There are a lot of students who still go in on Saturday and Sunday to post, and so it's important they have something to respond to. Like Ashley said, we want to make sure that we're responding to our students, whether it be through the questions to the instructor thread or emails, within 24 hours on the weekdays and 48 hours on the weekends.
Andy?
According to this, yes, well, yes.
Yeah, on the summary post, I find 75–80% of my students don't even post finish responding or anything else until Sunday. So I've always done it like early Sunday evening rather than on Saturday because a lot of them don't look at it until then. I thought the summary post was supposed to be a wind-up thing rather than a connecting thing. Which
I would agree. I would agree. I guess it just depends. The nursing students may be a little bit different than the term students.
The reason we do it a little earlier is because then when they do finally come back in, they have another question. They see what everybody else has talked about and summarized, then they go on and answer some more information. It just depends on how many times they've already been in. But if we don't put the summary post in early enough, they don't have another nibble to bite at and talk about.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so something that I look at when I am doing the online instructor evaluation spreadsheet is if you are in the threads often enough and if you are there, the first post needs to happen by Monday, and then I kind of go through and see what days of the week you guys are posting to make sure that you're actually interacting with your students. I've had instances where an instructor has gone in only on Wednesday and posted, which means that for Thursday through Sunday, the students aren't getting any interaction or guidance or direction, which is pretty important in these threads because it's not, we're not just there to facilitate, but we're also there to guide and kind of manage the discussions. And so keep that in mind, that if you're reading all of the discussions, then you're in there the exact same amount of time if you do it all in one day or if you spread it out throughout the week. And so it could actually just save you time each day if you go in every day or every other day and kind of make sure that everybody's on track. Because we don't want students to be posting something completely inaccurate and not realizing it until it's too late and they've been graded down for an assignment or quiz because of it. And then as Ashley was saying, conferences, and like Maggie said, that's kind of one of our ways to interact with those students because they don't have that face-to-face. That is our way of talking to them. And like Ashley said, if you record them, I know as a student, I did go in and watch those conferences because I had a day job. I wasn't able to go in when they held them live. And so it's a good idea to have those available to the students to watch later. Now, so the requirements for the term program, again, is to post each thread by Monday, and then 8 discussions per week, and that is for a normal size class. If you have a directed study or a class with 2 or 3 students, no way do we expect you to be in there 8 times and just posting basically to yourself. So I do actually take that into consideration when I'm looking at it. And just so you guys know, here is how I do this. So I go into each discussion. I do a Control-F to find. I chose David Robinson because he's always excellent, and I knew he would be a good example. I type in the last name. As you can see right here in the right-hand corner, it tells me that his name hit 1 of 26 times, which means that he actually posted to this thread 13 times. And then on the right-hand side, you can see these little yellow orangish dashes. That shows me where on the page he actually posted. So you can see that he posted quite regularly and was in there a good amount of time. And so that's actually what I look at, and that is relevant for both large classes and small classes. So you guys can actually do that yourself to go in and see if you feel like it's a reasonable amount.
Mandy?
So, yes.
One other thing. I came up with when I had a directed study last term, I came up with an idea and I ran it by John and I tried it and I was happy with it. And that is, if you've taught the course before, like with a regular size group and then you get a directed study, to go back into the ones you've taught before, don't copy the student's name, but go back and post, and I put from a previous student. So you're getting some other thoughts in there besides just you and the directed study student or the 1 or 2 students that you have.
That's brilliant. I like that a lot. Because that is the hard part with the directed study is you don't have that interaction with other students and you aren't able to build on the discussions as you would with a lot of students. So no, I really like that.
And the student commented back on some of those rather than just commenting back on what I was saying. you know, and so I found it worked well.
I like that idea. Okay, so something that Ashley talked a lot about is the providing of feedback, grading, and attendance, which is something that I think is crazy important, because I know that when I was a student, I had the one B I got in the entire program that frustrated me. My instructor actually didn't give me any feedback at all, which for a person like me and most people, I want to know where the points went, right? And we've talked about this before. I believe I used this as an example last time, that if you go in, Canvas actually gives you the ability to basically comment on a paper within it while you're grading it. So you can actually point out that, hey, you made the APA error here, or you know, you didn't answer this question here, or however you want to do it. But it's important that you let those students know what they've done wrong, especially if it's going to affect their future quizzes and assignments. We don't want to let them continue to make the same mistake over and over just because we never told them what it was. Now, something that Lois taught me about this week, or last week, I lose track of what day of the week it is anymore. So it's important on Monday that we go in, and if you see all of these dashes, that means that there was no submission and there is no grade. Something that Lois taught me is that there's this little drop down, and you can send a message to anyone who hasn't submitted. There are also other criteria, but you can send them a message. Oh, here I was trying so hard to check the student's name. And you can let them know, hey, you didn't submit this assignment, so you're going to get a 0. And once you submit the assignment, then your grade will change.
I'm trying to make a cheat sheet for my stats next week.
I hear you, Janet.
So,
anyway, so after you do that, you want to make sure that you post the 0 into this dash. And here is why this is important. I know it seems trivial, but unless you put the 0 in there, those 10 points that were possible don't actually weigh into their grade. So you know how in the top left-hand corner that I'm hiding so secretly, there is the overall grade? If you don't put the 0 into that, then it doesn't actually affect the grade. So when we get to the end of the course, there might be a student who thinks that they're passing, and so they're not putting forth much effort. And then last minute, after everything is completed, we go in and enter 0s, and suddenly they've failed, which has happened, which is why we watch for this every week. So if you get the report back that I make, and it says that you have dashes, you need to go back and make sure that you put those 0s in. And I do like the instructors who say that, you know, you're getting a 0 now, but the grade will change based on the late policy after you submit it. So keep that in mind. Something else that you want to make sure to do is don't just give the negative feedback. We also want to make sure that we are giving the positive feedback. And like Ashley said, we need to treat our students with professionalism and respect, even if they're not treating us the same way. Because we don't always know what's happening, and we want to make sure that we are not abrasive and keep them engaged. And like Ashley said, stealing my thunder, always communicate any issues with your students with your PD so that we can get everybody who needs to be in the loop in the loop. We can't fix a problem if we don't know about it. Now, Lois gave me these 2 awesome books, and I hate her for making me read, but I did it. And what I found were these things. The factors that make a difference in student success are access, attitudes, motivation, self-discipline to participate regularly. And the things that contribute to the attrition are isolation, accelerated pace, competing responsibilities, and technical issues, which we all know our students run into these things. They have a life outside of the classroom. They are working. They have families. They have broken down cars, whatever it is. We are teaching a lot of material very quickly. They don't have their fellow students to interact with on a regular basis, and we all know we have technical issues. So it's actually more for our programs than a lot of other schools. So it's important that we address these and make sure that we are on top of it. This is the first book Lois made me read, Learning Networks, A Field Guide to Teaching and Learning Online. It was very, very helpful. I would highly recommend that any of our instructors read it. The other one was the Online Teaching Guide, a handbook of attitudes, strategies, and techniques for the virtual classroom. This one had a lot of good stuff too. And of course, the online BSN program faculty handbook. This had all of the best practices. It has a lot of really great information. I highly recommend everybody read it. And now, what are your best practices that help you retain your students? Not everybody at once. Okay, Ashley, I'm going to put you on the spot.
You know, I just think one thing that I would do is just go into the grade book almost daily and just look at those students that don't have grades or are struggling and just think about them and think about conversations that I've had with them and then just reach out to them as much as you can. You don't want to be on the phone with them every day, but really if a student's not passing, there's a reason that they either have, you know, like you said, different things going on in their life or challenges or technological issues, and a lot of those things we can help with. So I really would just stare at the grade book and think about, okay, how can I help this specific student? And then I'd call them or contact their campus and just kind of individualize those specific students, because usually there's only one or two and the rest of your classes are, you know, doing awesome. So really just personalizing it, I think that's something that's helped me with when I've taught online.
Yeah, I know when I call students, I usually call under the guise of making sure that they're not having any technical issues so that I can get my foot in the door, make sure that they can get logged in, and that way it'll open up a dialogue and they can tell me what I can help them with.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. It's just how you communicate with them. I never say, hey, you're failing. I'll say, hey, how can I help you? How can I help you? Do you have any issues? Do you need me to reset your password? You know, what is it that I can do to help you? Do you need the campus to help? And then I think that they're not threatened by that. Just kind of that tone when you ask them how you can help. That's a big thing. But yeah, that's the thing I would say the most.
And then, you know, we were talking about the conferences and how getting participation is an issue. And I think that as students get a little more used to it and see how valuable they will be, will probably increase the participation. It's probably just going to be a slow process, but I'm glad that everybody is sharing what they're doing to help that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and I know that John Forsyth also had that Screencast-O-Matic that we talked about before. That's also helpful. Or, you know, a lot of you are uploading YouTube videos or lectures, or, you know, any type of media and technology is helpful as well. And I see a lot of that happening in the classes, and that's great as well.
Right. How about you, Lois or Maggie? What do you have? Erin, you guys do really, really great stuff. They already left for their ice cream, apparently.
We did not. We're here, but you guys are sick of nurses by now.
No way.
I think you're doing a fabulous job. This is so helpful information, and especially one of the things you brought up about, and we've learned it the hard way, is a lot of times we're giving feedback to help teach, and then we forget the positive. We got to do the sandwich method. So what Maggie's really been good about it is even in the discussion threads, I mean, if you mark them down for something and yet they've done something right, make sure you take the time to put in the other comment what you've done well.
And if you can't think of anything, I've had that horrible thing happen to me where I literally can't see anything that awesome. I go, your discussion was interesting.
Or I'm glad to see you in the thread.
Or I'm glad to see you.
Because if all they came in was one time and it was late and they did everything else wrong or didn't even bother, I'm just glad you got into the threads, because that's the first step.
Oh, John says, good start to this.
That's right.
Yeah, good one. I mean, we want to encourage our students and remind them that they're actually making progress. Because if all we ever tell them is what they're doing wrong, then that's the energy and the feeling that they're going to walk away from it with. And our goal is to make them feel comfortable and happy and like they're successful. So those are really great ideas to help with that.
Awesome.
Anything else? Back to you, Ashley.
All right, I think we are finishing up. I'm just going to quickly, I know that we're really close to the end. I'm just going to show my screen really quickly and make sure that I didn't miss anyone for attendance. And so if you are on the call or something, let me know. Just look at this list, and if you don't see your name, I should probably make it smaller. Okay, hopefully you can actually read that now. I made it smaller. If you don't see your name, yell out and let me know that you're here, but this will be your attendance, and then we will record for your in-services. Like we said, you need to be at least 2 of these per year. We're going to have 4 a year. They're going to be held quarterly. And then just kind of send me documentation for your professional developments. If you have any trouble with atomic learning, let me know. If you're trying to add links into your class, let me know, and we'd like to help and assist you. And then, like we said, if you have students with any issues, textbook issues, anything, just let us know, and we are happy to help. And the campuses are just doing all that we can to help our students. So we just appreciate each of you and your work, and you were all doing awesome, and I appreciate everybody had their attendance in by 9, which is awesome because that's early in the morning. So just keep up the good work and let us know how we can help and assist you, and we appreciate you being here tonight, and hopefully you all have a great night.
Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks much.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Ashley.
everybody have a great night. I'm going to stop the recording now.